day. Saturday, 9:42 in the morning on this, the 13th day of January, 2024, broadcasting live from a small studio on the coast of Southern California's Ventura Beach, or on a small island off the coast of Costa Rica, depending upon which of my origins you believe. It is I, your guide to the weekend tabletop role-playing game news, and I didn't think I'd be posting today. I was like, nothing's really going on other than the stuff we already know. There's really nothing to talk about till we get the stuff from CES. Let's not forget this weekend is CES, so we should get some hints on the video game VTT future of our various products that we're interested in, including 2024 D&D. As regarding to 2024 D&D news, it is relatively quiet in the lands of Wizards of the Coast. I guess they're still reeling from their latest publicity nightmare. But this little bit of information did manage to sneak past, and hardly anybody has pointed it out. But hey, apparently Dungeons & Dragons Online is still a thing, at least as far as one person is concerned. Who is this individual? This individual apparently is somebody to do with Dungeons & Dragons Online. They might be the current producer, I think. And apparently they've got big plans for the big expansions, including my favorite bad guys, the Red Wizards of Thay. So yeah, I didn't even think Dungeons & Dragons Online was a thing. But we've got, and it's 18 years. Does people still play this? Yeah, and they've got the whole year planned out. Expansions, level cap, new adventures, festivals, behind the scenes, online cosmetics you have to pay for. Apparently, yeah, Dungeons & Dragons Online is still a thing, and at least one person at Wizards of the Coast still has plans for it. Who knew? I thought it'd been dead for years. All right, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today we are talking about this article, this ongoing non-existent dust-up between myself and our friends over at Roll for Combat. So Roll for Combat and several other people have been speculating that Hasbro will sell off Dungeons & Dragons hook, line, and sinker. And I'm at the opposite. I'm like, no, Hasbro will never sell off the D&D brand. Now, there are two Dungeons & Dragons. That's part of the issue here. There's Dungeons & Dragons, the role-playing legacy, the game, the D20 dice thingy, stuff like that Wizards of the Coast Dungeons & Dragons Studios is currently creating for 2024. That is one D&D. But there's also the other D&D. There's the D&D brand. There's the things that Hasbro can put D&D iconography on that will potentially make them money. And we know Hasbro feels that D&D is more of a brand than a game now. They don't really care about the game. They don't really care about Magic. It's, they've made Wizards of the Coast a separate entity. They've split Wizards of the Coast into two different departments. They keep Crawford and Perkins at opposite ends of the building. It's now referred to as D&D Studios, and Crawford is referring to himself as the head architect. So there's D&D the game and D&D the brand. Now, just in case you have any curiosity about what I consider D&D the brand, let's just head on over to Amazon. Bam! There you go. Right there. Beholder. Beholder is a icon/word Hasbro owns, lock, stock, and barrel. They hold the copyright to that, which means anything that has this on it is money in Hasbro's pocket at some point in time. Why would they ever sell this off? And let's just go to Etsy. Just look at the D&D shirts. Look at the D&D merch. D&D gifts. All right. You see this? All right. So yeah, just look at this. These things. and all this stuff, the pillows, dice, calendars. Is that a PP? Folders, keychains, these things, figures, t-shirts, emergency dice, and a little teeny thing that you can put on your keychain, Dungeons and Dragons Mad Libs, all this stuff. This is all D&D, Dungeons and Dragons Monopoly. This is all D&D the brand. And this is all money. Oh, look at this gelatinous cube. So this is not a gelatinous cube. It's a goop. I would use that for green slime. I wouldn't use that for a gelatinous cube. But that's awesome. How come I haven't seen this before? I want that. How much is it? $8. I don't know if it's worth $8, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, just perfect. You know, this thing, the Legos, these things, all this. This is all pennies and nickels and dimes that make their way eventually to Hasbro's coffers. All these stickers. Why would Hasbro ever sell this off? Plus, there's all the other things. What about Drizzt? What about Elminster? What about the Forgotten Realms? What about Greyhawk? What about Beholders, Doppelgangers? All the things that they hold the copyrights to. Those are all bits and pieces of things of money that eventually make their way to Hasbro. It's like putting Mickey Mouse on something. Yes, but you're forgetting the subconscious. You're forgetting the subconscious aspect. Because even if it's not licensed, even if it's not making their money, it's still the brand. Still people in their unconsciously go, hey, D&D. And that's money. So I don't think they will ever sell off. I disagree with Stephen that they will sell off the brand. As long as there's video games, cartoons, action figures, Monopoly, breakfast cereal, I don't see them selling it off. They still think that VTT, that video game stuff, and that the branding stuff will still make them money. A couple years from now, will they reconsider? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think more likely they will put less energy into D&D if it's a no-win situation, but I don't see them abandoning it completely. But as regards to the other half of the D&D family tree, the D&D Studios stuff, I definitely see them getting rid of that, if not this year, soon. Yeah, so I could see them getting rid of Magic. They don't need Wizards of the Coast to make Magic. Anybody and their dog with a printing machine can make Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering isn't, how hard is it to make a new Magic set? All you do is just take a mechanic we've already seen, like banding, my all-time favorite mechanic, and rename it, and then put it on a creature. And, there's only so many variations of goblins you can make, so you just, let's give it a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, give it a name we haven't used, and come up with a mechanic that we've never used before. Or just rename a mechanic we've already used and give it a new name. Bam! New Magic set. There you go. I mean, look at some of the weird Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh sets that came out towards the later years. Remember the Pokemon that was an ice cream cone? Or the Yu-Gi-Oh that was basically just a fork? Yeah, so Magic could self-perpetuate for infinite amount of time. They don't need Wizards of the Coast to make Magic the Gathering. They could just hire a couple Korean kids to do it and pay them in, dollars. Same with D&D the game, the D&D the system. They don't need Wizards of the Coast to make D&D the system stuff. They could easily sell that off. Considering what's happened with the Greyhawk stuff and Gygax, I would think they would consider selling that stuff to Trollord Games. They know Trollord Games will continue producing Gygax, Greyhawk stuff. They could completely shed themselves of all the negative imagery that they say is associated with Gygax once the Justin Lanasa lawsuits are resolved, of course. I mean, let's not forget they're not going to let go of anything until that whole Lanasa stuff is finished and we find out how much money Lanasa might end up owing them. I'll bring that up in a second. But so, yeah, I could see them selling off Dark Sun, We know people want to make Dark Sun, and want to play Dark Sun, and there's obviously a Dark Sun audience, but Dark Sun is currently imagery that they don't want to associate with Wizards of the Coast D&D, so sell that license off. Let somebody else do with it, pocket the $2 million now and just go. Do what you want with it. Birthright, there's another one. Hollow Earth, there's another one. Maztaka, there's another one. Sell all those off. Eberron. Well, Keith already gave up on Eberron, didn't he? So I don't know if Eberron counts. But the realms, you could give the realms back to Ed, give Ed complete control of the realms, or sell the realms to a company that will treat Ed better and let Ed have more stuff and just go, here, take it. We're not using it anymore. Thanks for the $2 million. Bam. And as for the rule system, the heart and soul of D&D and licensing that off to other games, well, they've already given Power Rangers, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Ponies to Renegade. I could see them just going, here, take this and do stuff with it. We don't want to be associated with it anymore. It's too problematic. And let Renegade run Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe they'll sell off the license, but keep the name. The name is what's important, and the iconic imagery associated with the name. It doesn't matter what D&D is or not. You could just say Dungeons and Dragons, and people automatically have a built-in idea of what that is. And as long as Hasbro can find a way to milk that idea for money, I don't see them selling it off. I would see them selling off Power Rangers long before D&D, because Power Rangers isn't really making that much money. I could see them selling off Transformers, because the whole deal between Japan and them and Transformers is all confusing and stuff like that. So I could see them, there's toy license. I could see them dumping before I could see them dumping D&D, especially if those toy licenses aren't making them a lot of money. I mean, like Peppa still makes them huge money internationally. Ponies, not so much, but there's still money in ponies. G.I. Joe, the collector's market. They've got the Lightning figures for Power Rangers and the collector's market for Power Ranger stuff. That still makes them money. But, there's definitely licenses they could sell off. But the iconography, and there's so many copyrights that are linked to D&D that have to do each and every one and go through them and going, okay, Drizzt. Okay, Beholders. Okay, Birthright. Okay, this thing. Okay, this thing. Then there's one more thing to consider, and I will bring it up in just a second. Where is it? He did a video on this yesterday. Oh, here it is. Okay. If you guys haven't been following this story and how it directly and indirectly affects Wizards, D&D, and TSR, there's still this. There's still this going on in the background. If you're interested in what's going on with the Justin Lanasa Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax legacy, Justin Lanasa's bankruptcy, and all the shenanigans that Mr. Lanasa has been up to this year, and how it is affecting or not affecting Wizards and D&D, I highly recommend you head on over to my friend Tom's website, Tabletop Taproom, as he just has uncovered a huge, fiery dumpster of information regarding the lawsuits, multiple lawsuits between Wizards and Justin Lanasa, Wizards and New TSR, Wizards and all the other companies that Lanasa owns and stuff like that, Dungeon Hobby Shop, stuff like that. So that's always another thing to consider, even though it's running in the background and we don't hear about it enough. There's still that ongoing legal stuff between Wizards and Lanasa, and between Lanasa and the state of Seattle and the other things. So if you want to know what's going on with that, head on over to Tom, and he will have the latest information on the Justin Lanasa stuff. And that's something to also consider when we consider the fate of D&D Wizards, is what the fuck is going on over there with these multiple lawsuits, because those are still out there. Wizards is still got involved in multiple legal mumbo jumbo with LaNasa and new TSR. So they wouldn't sell off anything until those are resolved. And once those are resolved, then they would probably, I would start with the licenses that aren't making them any money. Give Greyhawk to Trollord Games with, some type of backwards, hey, every penny's on a dollar thing. Give Dark Sun to whoever wants to do Dark Sun. Give it to Venger. Give it to, Renegade. Give it to Goodman. Goodman is already doing Lankmar and the older stuff. Give it to another company who doesn't mind being associated with the negative imagery in Dark Sun. What about Birthright? Give Birthright to somebody who would do something with it. Give it to Trollord Games. Give it to Diversity and Dragons. He's doing an ongoing Birthright game and has been for several years. What else do they own? Hollow World, Mastaka, Eberron, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft. Those are all things they could sell off. We don't want to be associated with the negative imagery of Ravenloft. Dragonlance. Give Dragonlance back to Margaret and Tracy. Make some money off of that. And then just like, hey, go. I mean, remember the Dragonlance is responsible for the death of D&D bullshit. Yeah. So that could happen. But back to D&D merchandising. The name. I don't see them selling off the name. First, I mean, Drizzt alone, it would just be a mess. They'd have to cut those ties and figure the copyright stuff between them and Drizzt, Dragonlance, all those other things, all the imagery they own that they, let people make. Oh, no, that's an unofficial T-shirt with the Beholder on it. We don't make any money off that except it's free advertising. So, yeah, we do. So that's what I think about that. I don't see them selling off D&D this year, next year, in a couple years. I see them selling off IPs. I see them definitely liquidating Wizards and reabsorbing it. I mean, they've already split Wizards. We have Wizards Magic the Gathering, and that's all Wizards does now because Monopoly and all the board games have been given off to someone else, licensed to somebody else. And all the other role-playing licenses have been given to Renegade and other things. So basically all the first floor of Wizards is doing is making Magic the Gathering. And apparently, as we know, until 2 days ago, we couldn't make the cards. Oh, what do you know? We magically found the way to make the cards. Here there are the cards. But by the way, there's 22 extra cards to go with their cards that you have to buy separately. It's amazing how many people who said they already had the cards when the cards weren't available until the 9th. And yet, I've got the cards. So there we go. I could see them getting rid of the first floor, Magic the Gathering. Second floor, yeah, I could definitely see them liquidating Wizards this year. It'd be interesting if they did it this year because the whole 50th anniversary thing. But they did just do a huge bunch of layoffs at Wizards of the Coast. Next year, 2025 sell off. They start liquidating Wizards of the Coast. I mean, we know the 2027 thing is still hanging over their head. So I could start seeing more chunks of Wizards of the Coast being the responsibility being handed off to other people. You're working too hard, Crawford. Take a break. Mackenzie, you've just said another bunch of utterly stupid things that have upset everybody. Maybe you need a break. Kyle, we know you think white people can't leave the hobby soon enough, so maybe you need a break. Chris, you're doing the the Acquisitions Incorporated stuff and the live plays. Take a break. Let's just find somebody else in-house that can do this stuff and who maybe isn't so as much as a publicity nightmare like Mackenzie and Kyle. And then they just slowly between 2025 and 2027 start handing the responsibility off to in-house, reabsorbing Wizards of the Coast, eliminating the chaff, redirecting the public perception by focusing less attention on problematic imagery like Kyle and Mackenzie. Yeah, definitely could see that happening. And then totally getting rid of the title, selling off the name. That would be the last thing to go. If they could finish all the copyright stuff with everybody else and sell off of that everything else and sell off Beholder and Drizzt and all the other stuff and talk maybe 10 years down the line, which whatever Hasbro is in 10 years, digital Hasbro, I suppose we will get some more hints once we see the results from CES this weekend, and if and when the lawsuits are ever resolved. If 10 years from now, there is no more Stranger Things, there's no more D&D cartoons, and Hasbro thinks we will make more money getting rid of it, then yeah. But this year, I don't see it. I could see them selling off other things. Anyways, that's the latest in my ongoing non-existent dust-up between myself and Stephen regarding the fate of D&D. It's free press for him, and it's free press for me. So yeah, we will continue this non-existent feud over what we think the future of the hobby will be. At the end of the day, I don't fucking care. I just want people to start playing and stop arguing. If you haven't had a chance to check out Roll for Combat yet, please head on over to my friend over at Roll for Combat. Check out all their stuff. They make amazing videos. They are the first people to break the news story of the OGL disaster last year. They're one of the number one sources I go to for all my stories besides ENWorld. So if you haven't had a chance to check out their product line and their stuff, let them know. And thank you for allowing me to milk you guys for a little free press. I greatly appreciate everything you guys do. Huge fan, and wish Roll for Combat great things in the future. Wish you all great things for the future. Happy anniversary, Dungeons and Dragons. No matter what, it will be a interesting year for our beloved hobby and stuff like that. Occasionally, they do have a lot of their own product lines that they push, and they review other stuffs. But yeah, they're like me, and they love to make fun of Wizards of the Coast. So that's one thing we have in common. If you have any other questions regarding the story, head on over to their website. If you have any questions you want to ask me, please let me know in the comments. If there's anything you want to see me talk about in 2024, let me know. More importantly, if there's things you never want to hear me talk about again in 2024, let me know. OGGM, we want you to stop talking about Wizards of the Coast. Not going to happen. You had your chance. Ha, 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 ha. But remember, if I hit 2,000 subs by August 4th, I will stop talking about Wizards of the Coast for an entire month. That's my promise to you guys. Till next time, I've been your grumpy guide to all the tabletop role-playing game nonsense that is the often opinionated and often stupid OGGM. And you all have a great day. It's Saturday. Don't listen to me. Go outside and enjoy the sunshine, unless you're in the rest of the United States and being bombarded by horrible weather. Stay safe out there if you're in any of the states that are being affected by this weather, and I'll talk to y'all later. Now get off my land.